This episode of Fuel Spill TV is brought to you by Margie's 24-hour truck stop and buffet. Located just off of Highway I-40 in Eflin, North Carolina, Margie's is a proud partner and favorite post-race hangout spot of Team Burr. Welcome back to Fuel Spill TV. I'm Charlie the Intern, giving you the gas and go on all your favorite racing series. I feel like it's been forever since we last graced your screens, even though it's only been a few weeks, but unfortunately we live in a reality where time doesn't always work the way we want it to. But we've got a lot of action to go over from these last few weeks as we bring you round 2 of the ASCC playoffs. The playoff field is down to 9, and after these 3 races, it will be just 4 fighting for the title in Daytona. First, we return to the Carolinas with Darlington Raceway, followed by the Hickory Speedway in North Carolina, the shortest track on the ASCC calendar at just 3/8 of a mile. And then the big elimination race will be on the high banks of the Texas World Speedway, which, rumor has it, will be reunited with its classic Texas 500 date in 2020. And again, just 4 spots up for grabs in the championship race at Daytona. Those spots will go to the 3 division leaders leaving Texas World, plus, as a wild card, the runner-up who has scored the most points across the board. For the SAR division, it's the well-established Team SAR USA with 2 inexperienced drivers versus the first-year Team Thunder with their veteran and regular season champion Dan Richards. Between these 3 drivers, only Donnie King Jr. has a victory, and that came at the last race out at Talladega. That same race, Carl Hampton scored the caution clock bonus, and that one single point allowed him to beat Jim Hayes for the 3rd spot in round 2. Over in the Lennar division, it's Stefan Wlodarczyk and Alex Carson with 7 victories between them going up against Calvin Hobbs. Hobbs has also been fast, but his 9 DNFs coming into this stretch of races has prevented him from being a more solid title contender. But perhaps the biggest story for the Lennar division in round 2 is the absence of Joshua Pacer, the rookie who has set the ASCC on fire this season with 5 victories, but a terrible first round has eliminated him from championship contention. And finally, in the Inglesby division, Palmer Styles is the clear favorite to get into the championship race, especially since he's been the only driver to get an Inglesby into victory lane this season. Johnson Clapp and the McDermott team have certainly been punching above their weight, though. Hopefully for them, the mechanical problems that have sidelined them so many times this season won't manifest themselves in round 2. And for the owner-driver Seth Anderson, just making the playoffs was a dream come true. That team has never had a major sponsor, and they budget for finishing in the back. So even as a huge long shot for the title, they have plenty of reasons to celebrate. And now that we've brought you the championship picture, it's time to kick off round 2 of the playoffs at Darlington. Leading the field to the green would be Texas 500 winner Aaron Law, bouncing back from elimination in the first round. He takes the early lead going into turn 1. Alex Carson in the 99 slides into second behind him as Stefan Wlodarczyk and Dan Richards go at it for third. Insult to injury for Joshua Pacer as he has to pull into the pits early with a mechanical problem. That's not what the fast track team was looking for tonight after their promising championship run was suddenly derailed. Lap 7, Palmer Styles finds his way up to the front, and Aaron Law gives him the lead without much of a fight. This puts Law in the clutches of Alex Carson for second place. But that would be Carl Hampton taking over third place for now, as the leaders put Seth Anderson a lap down, coming on to lap 21. This isn't the most surprising thing in the world for the 51 team, but it still has to be disappointed after they squeaked into round 2. 3 wide with Elmer Farley and Calvin Hobbs is going to send Dan Richards spinning to the inside. Frustrating turn of events for the SAR regular season champion as he draws the first caution of the night. But right after the restart, Carl Hampton and Aaron Law, the teammates, get together out of 4, setting off a big pileup on the front stretch. Ryan Long in the 5 goes onto his roof, and that's Donnie King Jr. also involved, so all 3 of the SAR playoff contenders get swept up in early accidents. Donnie King Jr., not the biggest fan of his teammates right now, I'm sure, as he goes out early. Donnie King Jr. and Stefan Wlodarczyk are going to start the playoffs in the hole, as Wlodarczyk now blows up under caution. Wlodarczyk certainly does not want to dig himself out of yet another hole. His round 1 got off to a terrible start as well. But now we have Calvin Hobbs getting into a shoving match with the lapped car of Bill Calhoun. That's going to send Calhoun and Winston Orwell up into the wall. And that's Carl Hampton getting swept up in another wreck just further up the track with one of the Expansion Motorsports cars. Alex Carson inherits the lead for the restart after Palmer Styles and several others in the top 10 pitted ahead of him. Seth Anderson, the first car a lap down, is not going to get the chance to fight for that as Colton Spencer tries to get around the outside of him for the second spot. More trouble for Calvin Hobbs as he gets turned by the 24 of Angus Black right into the path of Cam Barnes, and Lance Stone and several others pile in just for good measure. That's Palmer Styles and Carl Hampton getting involved. We're not even at lap 50 yet, and it's already been a terrible start for several of our playoff contenders. Palmer Styles, and amazingly enough, Carl Hampton would return to the race. As far as the What's Your Beef team goes, Angus Black may have just had some trouble, but Porter House, his teammate, has cycled into the lead with Dan Richards right behind him. A lot of the smaller teams are getting themselves great TV time as we see Brett Finley and Richie Pinto up there as well. Staying out of the pits for a long time and letting all the chaos unfold behind them is a strategy that's certainly paying off, but Richards recovers from his early spin to take the lead. As Alex Carson now has trouble, and that causes a stack up that sends Winston Orwell into the wall. That was Greg Grace slamming into the back of him, followed by Peter Johnson and Bill Calhoun. Poor Winston Orwell easily has a top 15 car, but he keeps getting himself into these wrecks. He had clawed his way back up into 11th after his previous incident. The fun up front would not last for Porter House as he blows up under caution after leading just 6 laps. Colton Spencer will cycle into the lead now. Oh, that's trouble for Johnson Clapp in the 69, who was going to restart in second, but he's got trouble and has held up everybody behind him, allowing Spencer to get away. But Spencer is stuck behind the 76 of Bobby Miller III, allowing Joshua Pacer and Seth Anderson to get away and try to unlap themselves. Even more mechanical gremlins strike the 69 team, but that puts Dan Voiles in his trash car up to second, at least until he hits the wall and lets everyone by. This checks up Dan Richards, who then gets tangled with Winston Orwell and ends up into the inside wall once again. Johnson Clapp is back on the track after his sudden issues, and he only lost 1 lap thanks to that quick yellow. He's going to line up here behind Seth Anderson, who was finally able to get himself back onto the lead lap. Colton Spencer has a clear track ahead of him now as he tries to pull away from Brett Finley in the 32. Colton Spencer did not make the playoffs, but right now he's demonstrating the kind of speed that the Jim Brennan team has been able to put together. But the controversial late model star from Tennessee has yet to score a win in the series. Joshua Pacer now tangles with Dan Richards and ends up in the wall, collecting Jeff Little, but they're sitting right in the middle of the track. Here comes traffic. Angus Black, Dan Voiles, and Bobby Miller III are all collected. Leave it to the best drivers in America to turn a 2-car wreck into 6. And the story of Winston Orwell's night comes to a close as he once again gets caught up in a wreck after making up several spots. Colton Spencer continues to lead after the restart, but he's got the lapped car of Paul Sherman to deal with, and Spencer's going to want to dispatch him quickly. He's got Alex Carson and Brett Finley breathing down his neck. Jim Hayes is a lap down, as well as Johnson Clapp. Hayes goes by to get a lap back, and Brett Finley is going to get to the inside of Spencer to take over the lead. Johnson Clapp is going to follow Finley and work on trying to get back onto the lead lap. Brett Finley followed his short track boss Carl Humphrey into the ASCC this year, and these are the very first laps that the team has led all year. They're setting themselves up for a very good finish as they try to hold off Johnson Clapp to keep him a lap down. But the leaders approach more traffic, and Finley is going to have trouble keeping Colton Spencer behind him. Here comes Alex Carson. He's going to look for a free spot as well. Spencer back to the lead. Carson to the inside of the 32 with the preferred line. But Spencer is having trouble with this traffic as well. He gets stuck behind the 21 of Palmer Styles. Brett Finley takes over the lead once again. Johnson Clapp glued to his bumper. The only one of the heavy hitters still relevant in this race is Alex Carson back there. So Brett Finley Colton Spencer and a lot of the other smaller teams are really getting a chance to shine tonight. But Findlay gives way to Carson as he backs way out of the throttle and loses second to Colton Spencer. But now Spencer is having trouble. He slows down and pulls to the inside. Huge mechanical problems with the 13 are going to put him several laps down, although he will return to the race. The 20-minute caution clock would expire on that run. Alex Carson was the leader at the time of the yellow and gets 1 bonus point, giving him an even bigger advantage over his fallen playoff rivals. Richie Pinto in the 30 takes over second on a strategy call, and Johnson Clapp is back on the lead lap and in third. It's the last run to the finish now. Johnson Clapp making use of his new position back on the lead lap. He reels in Alex Carson as they hit traffic, but he can't find an opening yet, even as Carson gets stuck behind Carl Hampton and Paul Sherman. The top two break free of lap traffic, but Johnson Clapp is not able to catch back up. Alex Carson will open round 2 with his 4th victory of the year. Johnson Clapp and Richie Pinto were the only other cars on the lead lap at the end. After a very attrition-filled race, we've had several of those this season. Brett Findlay and Seth Anderson round out the top 5. Anderson did a great job surviving to get himself a great finish. He and Johnson Clapp get a leg up on their playoff rival Palmer Styles, who finished back in 13th. Dan Richards was the leading star contender in this race after all of his troubles, but just barely, as Carl Hampton would survive to round out the top 10. And thus, Dan Richards leads the star standings by just 1 point over Hampton. Donnie King Jr., after going out early, has a lot of work to do, as he is 20 points behind the leader. Alex Carson, with his win, gets himself a huge advantage over his rivals Calvin Hobbs and Stefan Wlodarczyk, who fell out of the race early. Meanwhile, Johnson Clapp takes over the Inglesby lead with Seth Anderson just 3 points behind him, and Palmer Styles in third. Seth Anderson, sitting at 1,529 points, would get the runner-up spot in the championship race if the round were to end right now. Great start to round 2 for the McDermott and Anderson teams, as Palmer Styles struggles early on. Round 2 would see an all-Flair Motorsports front row, Alex Carson following up on his victory with the pole, Joshua Pacer on his outside, for the start of 225 laps around the 3/8 of a mile Hickory Speedway. Palmer Styles, starting off round 2 in the hole, tries to take second from Joshua Pacer on the opening lap, but we have Greg Gray further back, almost going onto his roof to draw the first caution of the night. Palmer Styles gives up second on this caution to get an early vibration taken care of. However, he was speeding on the entry to pit road, so he has to serve that penalty and go further back as well, and now he causes an accident on his way out, putting Cam Barnes and Johnson Clapp into the wall along with Carl Hampton. It's a very frustrating and sloppy start to the race for Palmer Styles. It doesn't seem like the veteran to start cracking under the pressure, but that might be what we're seeing from him, as Alex Carson pits on that previous caution and hands the lead over to his teammate Pacer. But here comes Colton Spencer as the run goes on. Palmer Styles, desperate to make up some time, almost spins the 13, and he's not giving it up, sticking it in there 3 wide with the 2 leaders. Despite the interference, Colton Spencer is going to slide into the lead as Styles just bails for the pits anyway. But this green flag run continues to go on, giving Pacer more opportunities to catch and pass Colton Spencer in traffic. Colton Spencer gets boxed in behind the 50 of Cam Barnes, allowing Joshua Pacer to retake the lead on lap 60. Paul Sherman qualified his Expansion Motorsports car very well, and it had been hovering around the top 5 since the start of the race, but that'll come to an end as he has a tire start to go down, and Sherman is going to lose 2 laps in the pits. Lap 91 now, and Joshua Pacer has lapped everyone up to 8th place. Next on his list are playoff contenders Calvin Hobbs and Carl Hampton. Pacer has to be thinking this is more like it as he starts to put together another dominant run, but he's starting to have some trouble with Bobby Miller. Calvin Hobbs trying to stick his nose in there and get that lap back, but Colton Spencer sees an opportunity of his own to take the lead back, taking it 3 wide with Hampton and Pacer stuck on the very outside. Calvin Hobbs has gotten around the leaders and continues to hover on the tail end of the lead lap. But here comes Spencer to the inside, trying to put a stop to that. Stefan Wlodarczyk sits back in third and then clips the 97 of Lance Stone, who had gotten into the wall and practically slowed to a stop at the top of the track. And now he just spins himself out across the nose of Porterhouse, right in front of Colton Spencer and Joshua Pacer. The two leaders get caught up in this wreck, but Wlodarczyk limps away to yet another DNF. His championship hopes in serious jeopardy now. Colton Spencer's luck goes from bad to worse as he gets caught up in a collision between Donnie King Jr. and Jim Hayes. The 13 crew had gotten that car patched up and back out in fifth after that first wreck, but this one is going to finish him off. However, Donnie King has shrugged off that wreck and is looking for the lead as Bill Calhoun shoves Joshua Pacer up the track, creating the opening for the two. And if you look behind King, Carl Hampton and Calvin Hobbs have gotten themselves back onto the lead lap. Carl Hampton now going after Joshua Pacer for second. Bill Calhoun still not letting go. But under the next caution, Hampton's engine lets go, and he's now going to lose ground to his teammate and Dan Richards. After the restart, Tim Woodard gets loose, goes across the infield and back up into traffic right in front of Dan Richards and Bill Calhoun. That's Richie Pinto in the 30, and Lance Stone caught up as well. Their nights are done. Dan Richards would continue on with some front-end damage. Meanwhile, Alex Carson comes back into the picture, and he's going to take the lead from Donnie King. He doesn't put up much of a fight. I think he caught him by surprise. Aaron Singer has been very quiet all evening, but more importantly, he's kept his car clean, and for that, he's rewarded with a third-place run. If you think this is a fluke, Aaron Singer does have several top 10 finishes at the short tracks this year. However, Alex Carson built up a huge lead and will put him a lap down, making Alex Carson and Donnie King Jr. the only two cars on the lead lap at the moment. However, Carson's lead would be erased as Jim Hayes comes to a stop on the track and draws yet another caution. Both of the leaders took fresh tires under that caution, and they are now right on top of each other. But Carson has several lapped cars in front of him. Jeff Little goes around in turn 3, and Donnie King sneaks by to take the lead at the caution. Donnie King looking to pull off win number 2 in just his 6th race, and Alex Carson would certainly not be helped getting sandwiched between two lapped cars and putting Donnie Olson into the wall. Getting back onto the lead lap for this final run would be Aaron Singer. Donnie King gets away with the lead. Johnson Clapp, the first car lap down in between him and Singer, who takes the lead from Alex Carson. Aaron Singer's best finish in the ASCC was a 3rd place at the Indianapolis Raceway Park. He's trying to do one better tonight as Donnie King pulls away during this last run with no threat to him. He takes the win at Hickory. Donnie King was only supposed to run the Texas 500 this year, but the situation with Jason Richardson happened, and now he's looking to be a serious title contender. Aaron Singer once again does a great job to get his best career finish. Alex Carson's 3rd place is going to solidify his lead in the Lennard standings, but Calvin Hobbs finished right behind him. Meanwhile, Palmer Styles wins the Inglesby battle over Johnson Clapp, despite his terrible start to the race. And how about Tim Woodard? He almost goes upside down, but rallies back to finish 10th. Just finishing a race is rare for that team. A top 10, even more rare. Looking at the Star Division standings, Dan Richards fell out of the race with 10 laps to go due to a brake issue. He finished 20th and now hangs on to the lead by just 1 point over Donnie King Jr. and 7 over Carl Hampton. This is going to be a very close battle for the championship race between the Star Division rivals. It's a very different story in the Lennard Division, where Alex Carson's lead going into the elimination round is almost insurmountable for Calvin Hobbs and completely out of the question for Stefan Wlodarczyk. Wlodarczyk is the only driver going into Texas World who is mathematically out of luck. And in the Inglesby standings, just 10 points separate the 3 playoff contenders. Johnson Clapp and Seth Anderson are going to try to hold off Palmer Styles, but if they can't, one of them is in a very good position to get the wild card at Daytona. Finally, it's time to decide who will compete for the title with 100 laps around the Texas World Speedway. Joshua Pacer is on the pole over Carl Hampton. Pacer noses into the lead as his teammate Alex Carson tries to hook up behind him and get past Hampton for second. As the pack forms up 3, 4, and even 5 wide behind them. Pacer maintains the lead here, but Hampton and Alex Carson have been swallowed up. But they're all making it work so far in these opening laps. Running on the very, very wide surface here at Texas World. But inevitably, something happens as Seth Anderson and Bill Calhoun got together, and that checked Winston Orwell into the wall, but they all keep it straight. Until lap 14, when Dan Voiles and Tim Woodard get together and cause a big pileup going into turn 3. Alex Carson and Stefan Wlodarczyk were among those caught up in it, and Wlodarczyk especially has heavy damage. He'll continue on, but he's going to be off the pace. It's not like it really matters at this point. He was eliminated from championship contention coming into this race. And Calvin Hobbs is going to go up in smoke under this caution as well. So, this will officially lock in Alex Carson as the Lennard representative in the championship race. Meanwhile, it's Seth Anderson leading on the restart. He's got a car he can take anywhere, and that's exactly what he needs at this time, as he tries to hold off the pack behind him now. That's Brett Finley getting to the inside and making a move for the lead. But it'll be Joshua Pacer, who led several laps in a row in the opening stint, planting himself at the front once again. Johnson Clapp in the 69, following behind him. Seth Anderson trying to get back into the mix as well. In fact, all 3 of the Inglesbys are challenging for the top 5 right now. That's Palmer Styles up at the top. Styles and Pacer break away from the field now. Carl Hampton trying to catch them as they catch up to the 5 of Ryan Long, who was caught up in that lap 14 wreck and is missing his rear end. You can always count on those slow-lapped cars to throw a wrench into these super speedway races, but the field's going to keep it clean all the way to lap 49 when the caution clock expires. Here comes Colton Spencer with a massive run, getting a push from Palmer Styles. Oh, Porterhouse throws the block, and that almost ends in disaster. Porterhouse is a lap down, by the way. Not sure why he's making that kind of move, but the fight for the lead coming to the line is between Spencer and Styles, and Spencer barely hangs on to it to claim the 1 bonus point that goes with the caution clock. Spencer hangs on to the lead for the restart, but he's a sitting duck against Joshua Pacer. These two picking up from where they left off on their battle last week at Hickory. But Pacer seems to be losing his edge a bit as he's swallowed up by the pack now. Donnie King finds himself in the lead, facing a challenge from Johnson Clapp and Dan Richards, trying to keep himself in the fight for the championship race. Richards leads by just 1 point over Donnie King coming into this race, and unless something happens to all 3 of the Inglesbys, it looks like the wild card is going to go to one of them, so he absolutely has to finish in front of that too. There comes Palmer Styles making it 3 wide for the lead. Johnson Clapp right behind him. The pack continues to stay together and do that constant shuffle that comes with this kind of racing. Carl Hampton finds himself in the lead now, and coming up on the inside, Alex Carson, and with a push from Jim Hayes, and now Peter Johnson in the expansion car gets some time in that clean air. A couple of cars come together in the mid-pack. Palmer Styles and Aaron Singer almost had their races end. And look on the inside, it's Bobby Miller III, the most competitive we've ever seen him, but he's gonna get shuffled back very quickly. Greg Gray now coming up into second place on that inside. With 40 laps to go, anybody still in this pack could get into position to win this race. But Peter Johnson suffers a setback as he gets squeezed into the wall by his teammate, Austin Sanders in the 07. He gets back up towards the front, but behind him, Cam Barnes gets a shove from Palmer Styles, and we've got a wreck out of turn 2. Several cars sliding out of control. Alex Carson, Aaron Singer, Donnie King, and Carl Hampton are both involved. And I saw Palmer Styles and Austin Sanders spinning off to the inside, and Sanders is going to take a nasty hit into that opening down there in the infield, coming to a dead stop as his car gets caught on the end of the wall there, but Sanders would be okay after a precautionary overnight stay at the hospital. But this has not been an enjoyable round 2 for Palmer Styles. and he's making a lot of moves I don't think he'd make otherwise. But back up front, here comes Joshua Pacer to return to the lead. Carl Hampton following Paul Sherman on that inside as Dan Richards and Johnson Clapp get together, almost cause another wreck. 26 laps to go, coming down the backstretch. Brett Findlay gets squeezed into the wall as Colton Spencer and Winston Orwell get together. Donnie King in the 2 getting involved, and I think Palmer Styles got a small piece of that as well. Brett Findlay smashing into the back of Colton Spencer now as he tries to drive away from this. I'm not sure where he thought Spencer was going, but that's going to be the end of the day for Findlay, as well as Lance Stone, who blows up under caution. He was up in that pack all day. Dan Richards holding the lead now over Alex Carson and Seth Anderson. You're going to see Johnson Clapp, the 4th car in line there. If this race were to end right now, the top 4 would all be advancing to Daytona, but we still got under 20 laps to settle this race. Joshua Pacer's coming back to the front now, and with the pack thinned out a bit, with all the attrition we've had in the latter half of this race, he's having an easier time picking through traffic. 12 laps to go now, and Peter Johnson goes up in smoke. Expansion Motorsports has shown some good speed and strategy here in round 2, but so far only Richie Pinto was able to seal a really good finish for them back at Darlington. The fight for the lead is now between Dan Richards and Johnson Clapp as Richards gets caught behind the damaged car of Greg Gray. There goes Alex Carson to the inside of Clapp for the lead. Seth Anderson following through to 3rd, and Richards is going to get stuck behind the 78 and fall to the back of this lead group, just like that. Again, lapped cars always find a way to be a threat to these lead groups here at these super speedway races. Joshua Pacer makes the move for the lead, coming to 3 to go, but there's a crash. Carson, Clapp, and King go hard into the wall. Heavy damage for Dan Richards, the SAR leader. Joshua Pacer gets away to lead at the yellow, which will certainly end this race. Palmer Styles got tucked up behind Alex Carson, and like with Cam Barnes, just turned him around. Now, you're certainly not going to want to give anyone any room towards the end of these races, but that very conveniently took out the 69 of Johnson Clapp, and now Clapp's championship hopes are not looking good, as well as Dan Richards. Those two could almost taste Daytona, and now this has happened right at the end. Meanwhile, Joshua Pacer, no longer in the championship hunt, but he's still going to pick up win number 6, a staggering number for anybody in 1 year, let alone a rookie. But the attention quickly turns to pit lane, where there is a brawl between the Clapp and Styles pit crews. An absolutely furious McDermott team has stormed the Styles pit box, and now they're giving us the kind of melee we haven't seen in years. I can't say I blame the McDermott team at all. That wreck caused by Styles cost them a chance at the championship. Officials are on the scene trying to break it up, but they're having a very, very hard time getting things in order. But eventually they were able to settle it down, and amazingly no penalties are expected. I guess they felt it wouldn't be right to punish the teams for giving us a guaranteed classic highlight, and no penalty would be handed down to Palmer Styles for starting that wreck in the first place. Again, Joshua Pacer picks up victory number 6, Palmer Styles behind him. Cam Barnes gets his best career finish. His previous best was a 5th place at Toledo Speedway. Aaron Law and Paul Sherman round out the top 5. Sherman finally seals the deal. In the expansion car, Seth Anderson escaped that mess to finish in 6th. Then it's Jim Hayes, Winston Orwell, and Bobby Miller grabbing some great finishes for themselves, and Jeff Little rounds out the top 10. And now it's time to find out who the final 4 at Daytona will be. In the SAR division, Donnie King Jr. will be fighting for the championship despite only running 7 races. He squeezed past the wrecked Dan Richards and finished 12th today, making the most of a very controversial opportunity for him. King will be competing for 2 championships down at Daytona. He is also a finalist in the ASCC East Series, driving for Southern Motorsports, the junior team, to Team SAR USA. As for the Lennar division, we all saw this coming once Calvin Hobbs dropped out, but Alex Carson has punched his ticket to the Final 4. And he did it in a very convincing fashion too, taking the spot by a full race worth of points over Calvin Hobbs. And finally, in the Inglesby division, after the controversial race-ending crash, Palmer Styles is tied for the top spot with Seth Anderson. The tiebreaker is settled by number of victories. Palmer Styles has 2, and Seth Anderson has enough points for the wildcard spot. Johnson Clapp and the JD McDermott team have a very good program going. They've been punching well above their weight, but unfortunately for them, they're going to have to wait until next year. But they have a fellow underdog team in Seth Anderson to cheer on to a possible championship. I mean, hey, they sure as hell aren't going to be cheering for Palmer Styles after today. And there's the checkered flag on this week's episode of FuelSpillTV. The ASCC finale at Daytona is sure to be a good show, but before that, we've got some FARC championships to wrap up, as the series descends upon the Little Bent Twig Raceway in Times Beach, Missouri, for the Smash Beer Oktoberfest Nationals. Thank you for joining us this week. I'm Charlie the Intern. I will always be Charlie the Intern, and I'll see you next time on FuelSpillTV.